Okay. Well, we have a lot to cover today, so we are going to go ahead and get started. I am Deb Troca, the Executive Director of the Indiana Cooperative Development Center. And Christina, you'll be able, well, I think she's already taken down her picture. She is out of the office today, so you are stuck with me. We are excited to have you here today, and we've got a really terrific program talking about, it's all about SNAP at farmers markets. It's an incredibly important program, and a lot of times there's a lot of misinformation or uncertainty about how to use the program. So we have three very experienced people who are with us today. We're going to talk about SNAP. Our first presentation is from Lindsey Cox and Chelsie Jaramillo. Did I say it correctly, or I didn't butcher it too badly? Lindsey was born and raised in East Central Indiana and is a graduate of Ball State University and an Indiana accredited horticulturist. Her interests include nutrition, local food systems, wellness, community, and horticulture. And she brings all of that, those interests and expertise to her position as a community wellness coordinator through Purdue Extension's Nutrition Education Program, which is a SNAP Ed funded initiative serving Delaware and Blackford counties. And Chelsie is currently a community wellness coordinator at Purdue Extension for Madison County. She holds a bachelor's degree in education and a master's degree in political science and public administration, both from Ball State. In her position as a community wellness coordinator, she works with several community partners to create sustainable policy, systems, and environmental change in order to increase access to nutrition and physical activity for limited resources audiences. In addition, Chelsie owns her own business, CJ's Cheesecakes and More, yay Chelsie, which provide local homemade items to the Madison County area. She's also a wife and mother of 3 children. So Lindsey and Chelsie, it is all yours. I'll introduce Michelle when we get to that part of the presentation.
All right, Lindsey, you got it. Oh, there it is. All right, hopefully everybody can hear me okay. Get a few nods in there if you can hear me. Okay. So, all right, perfect. So Lindsey and I are talking a little bit more about how to use and what SNAP is at the farmers market. And again, I currently work in Madison County, and Lindsey works in Delaware and Blackford counties as community wellness coordinators with Purdue Extension. And so our first slide here is basically what is SNAP at the market. And I will tell you, just from my experience, it's just amazing. I love it. I love working with it. I worked with it for the past 5 years, and it's just been a really great experience to have. It's a great option for markets. It allows SNAP eligible recipients to purchase food at the farmers market using their SNAP dollars. So it not only helps individuals on SNAP get fresher, local grown and made food, but it also provides additional dollars in income for the local food vendors. So in order to get started with this, there is an online application you have to fill out. There's no cost to it. And following this presentation, we will be providing you with a walkthrough handout that'll take you step by step through the process. You are also more than welcome to call any of our community wellness coordinators in the county in which you are in, and they can help walk you through it. We also have information on the wireless machinery once you are approved. That usually comes after with your FNS number. You can either work with the state. They provide state FIS equipment through Conduit. You could also work at the national level with USDA Marketlink. And we'll talk a little more specifically about that here in just a few minutes. In most markets, they usually use a tokens, which there's a picture here on the screen of what those look like, or a receipt or script system. I will tell you 90+% of markets use the token system because it's just a little easier. But again, we'll kind of cover that a little more in detail. It is a market level program generally. So for those of you who are vendors, if you go to the market, and they have SNAP available. I encourage you to take advantage of it because you don't really have to do a lot of extra for it. The market is the one that gets approved. They manage kind of the separate bank account for it. They manage paying you. All you do is you will collect the tokens or script when it's given to you by a customer and redeem those with your market master, and the market master will redeem you with real money. It's pretty low maintenance for you all, and it's still pretty straightforward for the market itself. Once it's all set up, it's similar to other certificate or kind of pop kids club type programs that you see at the market. However, if you are a local farm and you want to be able to SNAP at your farm, if you have like a little farm stand or a market actually set up there, you can apply as a farm to receive that. And again, it also gives SNAP eligible recipients broader buying ability. For example, compared to if they were also approved for WIC, it expands their options a little bit. And we will also be providing you a purchasing items list handout following this presentation. Lastly, we wanted to provide you with our USDA contact. Her name is Teresa, and she's been really great and helped a lot of us work through some of the issues you might have with your application process. You know, like I said, either call one of us or try to walk through with the handout to do the application yourself and submit it. And then if you're having problems for any reason trying to get it through, Teresa is a great contact to try to push it a little bit quicker. Lindsey?
All right. So SNAP at the farmer's market, what is it? So Chelsie covered, you know, what it is, but why do we want to use it? So basically it helps get fresh, local, nutritious food to our local SNAP recipients. It is money directly into our local food economies, to our local farmers and vendors. Marketlink has this great visual, you know, showing the benefits. So improves food access, builds a sense of community, well-being of SNAP shoppers, creates marketing opportunities, increase sales and improve profitability, and expand customer base. I pulled this from the April webinar, which all these webinars are accessible on the Farmers Market Community of Practice YouTube channel. And then we're talking just right at noon about that Dropbox link where all these slides and handouts are available. So those are wonderful resources. So these are some different online resources. Again, here's that YouTube channel that I just mentioned, the Farmers Market Coalition, National Coalition, the Farmers Market Legal Toolkit are fabulous websites I've used a lot. Last year, Purdue Extension published this article about working with food purchasing assistance programs, which covers, you know, the SNAP and the WIC and those sorts of programs. And then each month, USDA puts out an updated list on their website, which is linked. You'll be able to access that here in the next few days after the webinar. And so they do an updated handout at the end of each month that has all the markets in the country that are approved to accept SNAP. So you have to be careful and make sure, you know, there might be a market with a similar name. So double check that's the right city and state. But we can see here at the bottom of this screenshot that there's Three Sisters Garden in Indianapolis that is SNAP approved. So we had mentioned earlier the couple options of point of sale equipment. So Conduent is our state's EBT vendor. If you go through them, it is 3 years free with the option of renewing that. They are updating all their point of sale equipment this year. And we have had several markets in the state have challenges in that process. You can see in the picture in the bottom right, that is the updated equipment. So that's what it looks like. We know that some Indiana markets have had contact or have had luck with these two contacts that we have linked here. And so when you use the Conduent equipment, it is free to swipe SNAP cards. and then you can pay an added fee to take debit and credit cards. In Delaware County, we have both Minnetrista and Albany farmers markets that use the conduit equipment option. And Angela Albon is our state coordinator, and she is a fabulous resource. And I think that she might be a participant today in this webinar. The other option is Marketlink. So Marketlink uses an app called Total Pay Go that you can use on any smart device, whether that's your smartphone or an iPad or a tablet. And then it comes with one of those little card readers to swipe the actual cards. 1 year free with them, and then there is a fee after that first year. Swiping the SNAP cards is free, and then again, you can pay an added fee to do debit and credit cards. In Delaware County, we have the Yorktown Farmers Market using Marketlink as of this year, and they said it is easy to use. These are just some helpful links. I pulled these from their website, but also the April Community of Practice webinar. We learned all about this. And so Amy presented, and that webinar is full of a lot of information and is recorded and available on the YouTube channel. The State Department of Health has put out some pretty handy one-pagers about SNAP and the WIC and senior vouchers at the market. So those were discussed in the April webinar and are available in the Indiana Farmers Market Community of Practice Dropbox, which you will have access to here in the next few days when Christina and Deb send the follow-up email. We also have this little handout here at the bottom. You can see this card. So Chelsie and I have a PDF version that will be available to you after today in that Dropbox. And one side gives the eligible SNAP foods. So dairy, vegetables, fruit, baked goods, bread, poultry, fish, jams and jellies, syrup and honey, seeds, meat. Those are all eligible with SNAP. So that's one side. And then the other side kind of just gives the basic steps of how you do it at the market. Go to the info tent, swipe your card, get the tokens or vouchers, and then spend them at the booths that take them. So when we think about SNAP, you maybe have heard of double up programs. So double up programs are, they just help match money, whether that's SNAP, you can use it with WIC and senior vouchers, all sorts of different programs. It is often a one-to-one matching up to a certain amount. So they are funded publicly or privately. So that could be a grant through a local foundation, maybe a local business sponsors it, or a state incentive program, which I believe Michelle will be talking about here in a little bit. But basically it just incentivizes SNAP customers to spend their benefits at the market. So for example, swipe your SNAP card for $20 and receive $20 more in double up bucks. So swipe it, you just put $20 on your SNAP card, but then you're actually receiving $40 to spend at the market. So beneficial to everyone. This is an example I found online, Oklahoma State. So you can see spend $1 in SNAP benefits, get $1 for Oklahoma grown produce up to $20. So in Delaware County, we've got the Minnetrista Farmers Market. Catherine Reynolds is the manager. They use the conduit point of sale equipment. Their process is customers go to the orchard shop, which is kind of in the middle of their market area. It is staffed by employees, and swipe your SNAP card for however much you want, and you get $1 tokens to then spend with the vendors. And the market manager reimburses the vendors once per month. So, it's a good idea that the vendors keep track of the tokens they receive, and Minnetrista has a clipboard where every time they swipe a card, they mark, the date and how much it was for and the customer. And then when they receive the tokens back from the vendors, keep track and then reimburse them with a check once a month. That's their tokens, the orchard shop. So the orchard shop is located in this cute little courtyard that is they've got vendors on either side of that courtyard. And then That is the new equipment. They just received that new conduit equipment a couple weeks ago. At Yorktown, they have a tent in the middle of their market. That is their welcome tent where you go to swipe your card. Their manager team is Nancy, Christiana, and Jeff. Using the Marketlink equipment, they have volunteers working at that tent to swipe the cards, and they also do the $1 tokens. And Yorktown reimburses their vendors that same day for any SNAP tokens that they have received. Couple of pictures from the other weekend of two produce farmers, so Schrock Family Farm and Free Folk Farm, and both of those vendors have some signage at their booth indicating that they accept SNAP or the WIC and senior checks. Albany Farmers Market, also in Delaware County. Marcy is their market manager. So they use the conduit equipment, and she had to reapply to accept SNAP this year. So Marcy got through that process, has reapplied, and Mr. Hernandez at Conduit just reached out yesterday saying, hey, let me know, we can get this process going to update your equipment. So the ball is rolling. So there's Marcy. She received an award a few years ago for getting the market up and going so quickly and successfully, and taking these alternative payments. And you might have seen earlier on the slide about matching programs and different places that you can match money. Donation programs could be one of those things that you could potentially match funds. Let Us Change is one of those donation programs. So Let Us Change, the idea is that the market already has an existing relationship, perhaps with a food pantry or a soup kitchen. And at the end of the market, vendors might have some items that did not sell. Those items can be donated to that pantry, soup kitchen. And so with Let Us Change, the vendors would have little donation cans on their table, and people can put their spare change in there. So then at the end of the market, when they are donating their unsold items, they can be reimbursed for a little bit of that cost. And if your funder is willing, you could potentially match those donation funds as well. With farmers markets in general, marketing is always something we think about. And when you take an alternative payment, might as well market that. So you might think about signage for your card swipe area, so it is visible, it is an easy process. Same thing at the vendor booths. If the vendor accepts an alternative payment, have a sign. And then you think about flyers for posting in the community, having on social media. Here we've got the Yorktown Farmers Marketplace. They had this great visual that they have used on their Facebook. I have seen it come through in emails. And then the handout on the right, the Delaware County Farmers Market and roadside stands. Chelsie used to be the CWC in Delaware County. She transferred to Madison a couple years ago, and now I'm the CWC in Delaware. But when she was in Delaware County, she created this fabulous handout that had all the farmers markets, their season schedule, and the different payments that they accepted. So this year, the Delaware County Ag and Natural Resources educator at the Purdue Extension Office, that's Lauren Teamy. She and I have worked together on creating the handout. And this year we were like, let's expand it to the roadside stands. So I've been communicating with the markets and the stands, and Lauren has been doing the design work, but this is our draft of those different options. And we post it online in a couple of places, print hard copies, and then share it with the markets and the roadside stands to also share it with their communities. So that should be coming out anytime with the different challenges people have been having with SNAP and reapplying and changing out equipment. We have had a bit of a delay on our handout this year, sadly. So that's coming out anytime. Chelsie, back to you.
Thanks, Lindsey. Before I get to these, I wanted to make just a comment on something you saw in the last couple of examples is just a note on the tokens. For those of the markets that use the tokens and even the script system, most, in fact, all of the markets I am aware of use the $1 tokens primarily because you cannot give change. And a lot of times we try to work with vendors to be accommodating to that and round up or down so that individuals don't have to necessarily worry about whether they're getting change back or not, and to try to make kind of more whole prices. And also, I think Lindsey did a really great job, representing the markets in Delaware County. And I want to say that she gave a lot of really streamlined and standard examples that I have enjoyed working with in the past. And here in Madison County, it's a little different. They're not as streamlined. They're not as cut and dry. We've had a little bit more struggle getting that in place. So you're going to see some of those examples here. The first one is our Anderson City Market. The current market manager is Kirsten Street, and she's wonderful. However, please note that they will be switching to new management in 2022. Park Place Community Center has housed that in their front lawn area, and they have reached out to the community. They feel it's time for another community organization to take that over. So we will know who that is soon, sometime in July, I believe. And they are also a little bit different because they started SNAP way before free equipment was available. So they have chosen, they started with the paid equipment and have decided to stick with it. And, in the change of market management, there's a good chance that the new person will have to reapply for SNAP and update the information and request the free equipment. I know they're going to go over with the new management what that costs for them, what that entails for them yearly as far as reporting and things like that. But I always promote the free option because it really is a fabulous funded option, especially through our state. And again, as Lindsey said, Angela Albin's wonderful to work with. And then at the Anderson City Market, they swipe their SNAP card at the Market Gazebo, which you'll see a picture of here in just a second, located in the front market area next to the parking lot. They do receive $1 tokens to spend with their vendors. And then they do reimburse the vendors. I think they set it up on an individual basis. So it can be potentially either weekly, biweekly, or monthly. And every market's different. It could be whatever works best depending on how often your vendors attend. And again, marketing is great. I know the state had some of these fold out signs, the one picture right there in the center for a little while. I don't know if those are still available, but those are great to have set out, and the gazebo is right next to it. You can see that there. You also have a picture here of their SNAP tokens. Again, and they've gone all out on the marketing they have bags and shirts, they have, all over town, you'll see those little Anderson City Market signs in people's yards. And this particular market has a really big emphasis on children. They really try to get children involved at the market. They do their own junior vendor days once a month. They do activities for kids. They have a pop club that they do. It's just really engaging. And they even have a little playground out front between the gazebo and the parking lot area. Again, another kind of unique situation is our Collective Roots Local Market and Cafe. The market owner is Anna Ulam, and she's wonderful. It actually classifies as a farmer's market and a grocery store. They've worked all that through with the health department. So they are allowed to sell market items, including home-based vendor items and commercial retail items as well. And they also have their own cafe in there where they cook fresh items. They accept EBT, PEBT eligible, and they have catered to many of our vegan and gluten-free audiences in that area. They are also located in the 46016 zip code area, which is identified as has been identified nationally as a food desert area. and is pretty much the only grocery store within several miles. There's also a grocery store. The closest one is actually a Latino grocery store that caters to our Latino population and serves great tacos, just saying. They also do the maker's items as well that you would see at a farmer's market. They do use conduit equipment. They have their own counter bar table where you can take your SNAP card and swipe it at the register after picking up your items, which is a little different than a normal farmer's market where you would get the SNAP dollars first and then go buy your items. This is more of a grocery store lineup where you can get your items first and then bring it to the register. And they do reimburse vendors monthly. These are some of the items that they offer that SNAP eligible recipients can buy. They have a cooler area. They have natural honey and eggs, just a really wide variety of what a market could potentially offer. This is also a unique setup for vendors because they don't have to be on site. They can leave their shelves stocked, come in once a week, once every couple of weeks. Just kind of depends. And I know they do help with some pickups depending on who the vendor is. I know they go and pick up the milk that you see there in the bottom corner of the top right picture. So any of you in the surrounding counties, you might take a look at that. It's a really unique situation there that's benefited the community a lot. Alexandria Farmers and Artisans Market has been around for a really long time. They have a lot of local support, and it is ran by a market board, but the main backbone is the Alexandria Monroe Chamber of Commerce, and the contact there is Ashley Olabus, who sits on the market board, and they run most of their finances and reporting through the chamber, and they set up at Beulah Park. Beulah Park houses the city pool. It houses a very large park area and also our county fairgrounds. So it has a lot going for it, and they have a beautiful pavilion that they set up under. And I wanted to mention them because they are currently in the application process, and they are in their 4th try for submitting it. They've been denied 3 different times, even after sitting down on the phone with a USDA contact, not ours in particular, but another one, and walking them through the process. So there are those unique situations where it can be frustrating. But again, I say patience is a virtue and you can get it there. And this is some of their local pictures. The bottom left corner, is their market table. It's set up right at the entrance to the pavilion. And you stop there to get all of your market information, and we'll be having the SNAP registration or POS equipment sitting there for you to go and shop in the market. And so I really enjoyed making that handout for Delaware County when I was there. However, this county isn't as excited about, getting that up and running. There's a lot of, more on the ground things that markets have been working on. So I don't have it set up yet. And this is the slide that we have, but it tells you more about our local markets and when they are and when they run. And I think something this county has done really well is they have made it a point to try and not be open at the same time. And a lot of the vendors appreciate that because they can go to multiple markets. The only one that is at the same time is the Anderson City Market and the Pendleton Market, but they are on different sides of the county and serve generally a different audience during that time frame. But it's nice because we do have access to fresh local produce and great makers options throughout the week. Thank you. We have enjoyed this presentation and really hope that it's a good leeway into the Double Bucks Fresh Bucks presentation that's coming up. And we're happy to take questions towards the end.
Well, thank you so much, Lindsey and Chelsie. It was awesome to see all those different markets. and kind of look at what their markets look like, how they're marketing, as well as learning how they do accept SNAP at their markets. So lots of good ideas there, and thank you so much for sharing. We will have an opportunity to answer questions at the end. So if you have questions, please post them in the chat and we'll go through those and get to as many as possible at the end of this presentation. So our next presenter is Michell Shippy, who is a registered dietitian nutritionist who works at the Marion County Public Health Department for 13 years. In her role as a nutrition incentive program manager, she's worked 2.5 years on the REACH project in Marion County, where she's made improvements to their SNAP matching program, Fresh Bucks, as well as built and implemented the Marion County produce prescription program. So we are excited to have Michell with us again today. So Michell, it is all yours.
Great, thank you. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen here. And I'm happy to be here. So thanks for the invite. And this is definitely a great transition from Chelsie and Lindsey's presentation to what we're doing here in Indianapolis with our Fresh Bucks program. Everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, as Deb mentioned, I am with the Marion County Public Health Department in Indianapolis. And my position is actually funded through the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention through a project known as REACH. And that stands for Racial and Ethnic Approaches to Community Health. So we've had a lot of support in building out Fresh Bucks, as it actually came from an organization when it first began here in Indy. So why nutrition incentives? And I'm going to go through these slides pretty quickly just so we have enough time at the end to have some questions, but definitely feel free to reach out individually with any additional questions that you may have. But we know new research is showing that dietary risk factors is the leading risk factor for death and disease here in America. And so nutrition incentive programs is really a great way of incorporating healthier food items into the diet of families who are on SNAP. A lot of research is continuing on, more is needed, but what they're seeing is that incentive programs actually help increase consumption, obviously purchasing, and then also with nutrition incentives linking in the produce prescription program, you're also seeing that health impact and the improved health outcomes that are coming from it. And in addition to that, the build of the local food economy, really supporting our growers, farmers, and even eventually getting into the smaller brick and mortar retail stores within your community. So what are SNAP matching programs? I know Lindsey covered them a little bit. So Double Up Food Bucks program is actually the trademark program, originally came out of Fair Food Network in Ann Arbor, Michigan. They began the program in 2009. SNAP matching programs actually started a little bit before that with Wholesome Wave. And Wholesome Wave has now taken on the direction of produce prescription programs, whereas the Fair Food Network is the leading national organization that provides technical assistance on nutrition incentive programs. And they were actually the first statewide uniform design central administrative program in the nation. They are the technical assistance support at the USDA. So if a organization was to receive GUSNIP, which is the Gus Schumacher Nutrition Incentive Program funding for the USDA, the Fair Food Network provides that technical assistance. And then here in Indianapolis, our program, it runs the same way, but it is called Fresh Bucks. It was implemented in 2013 by the Indy Hunger Network. And at that time, they decided to create their own design, branding, and logo, which hence, the name of Fresh Bucks. And then unfortunately, the capacity was not there in the summer of 2018 to keep Fresh Bucks funded and going. And that was a really huge opportunity for us at the health department when we applied for our CDC grant to include Fresh Bucks into the work plan, which is what we're doing with it now. We were lucky enough to get awarded and hire my position to really lead the way, because it does take a full-time person, especially within the urban setting and the size of Indianapolis and the number of farmers markets that are participating. With our program, it is a dollar-to-dollar match, but we advertise it as a $2 to $2 match because of the new process that we took on a couple years ago with using real checks for the actual SNAP match itself. But we do provide up to $20, and the Freshbooks can be used on fresh fruits, vegetables, herbs, and also any starter plants that the produce vendor is selling. The goal of our Freshbooks program is, much like all other nutrition incentive programs throughout the nation, is to increase access and affordability to fresh, healthy food for families on SNAP, supporting our mid-sized and small growers and local retailers, providing additional resources to refer access to healthier foods, such as connecting with healthcare systems, providing some promotional materials. That way they can provide patients the opportunity to have access to healthier foods to manage their chronic disease. And then the empowering communities through socialization. That one's a big one that we continue to work on. Farmers markets are not necessarily the solution to food access, especially within an urban setting. But that's where we have to get creative with our SNAP matching program and embed them into places where people are actually getting their food. So this chart provides past and present. In the past, the program initially started utilizing tokens for Freshbooks, just like they do for SNAP. We didn't change anything with SNAP. As Lindsey and Chelsie mentioned, SNAP, because that is funding coming from the USDA directly to the farmers market management, that we have kept the process with tokens, $1 tokens for all of the farmers markets in Marion County. But instead of doing tokens as well for Freshbooks, what we ended up doing is switching over to real checks. And we turned those into $2 vouchers. And what's nice about this process is that the farmers keep the checks. The markets don't have to tally tokens each week for Freshbooks no more. The only thing the markets are responsible for doing is sending a tally sheet to us every month to provide the distribution data. And then the farmers can deposit their checks directly into their bank account. So it's a quick turnaround, instant pay for them. And then distribution data is collected through the tally sheet, and then we collect our redemption data through bank statements each month. And this is an example of the tally sheet we provide. As we move into electronic payments, we hope that tallying and everything will become electronic. As you can imagine, market managers and volunteers and staff at the markets filling this out, they can look a little messy at times. We do a pretty good job at getting accurate information, haven't run into too many issues, but sometimes there's a little bit of back and forth with the markets if there's something on there that doesn't look right or we can't read. And then how our process worked when we moved towards checks is we reached out to all the markets that were already accepting SNAP, and we got a list of their produce vendors. And then we reached out to the produce vendors and we had an application for them to fill out. We also took physical applications directly to the markets because we do have a handful of Amish growers that are vending in Marion County. And then once they are approved, they are assigned a FreshBucks number, they're issued a stamp, and then they are provided a user guide on how to implement the program. It works much like the farmers market nutrition programs for WIC and seniors. I actually had a call with Mindy when we first were going to implement this to provide an idea, an example of what the checks could look like. So it was really nice having that connection with Mindy. We also learned the idea from an organization out of Washington, DC called DC Greens, and they were doing real checks. And they were the ones that actually connected us to the company that we purchased the checks through. We do provide signage for the vendors. I will say that is the trickiest thing. They're not the best at posting them. And so moving forward, we're still working on like, how do we continue to get our vendors to advertise that they accept Freshbooks? And so we'll continue to work on that as well. And then we have about 55 approved produce vendors currently. And then we have about 34 that are engaged, meaning that they're actually depositing and redeeming the Freshbooks checks. And then how we do it with the markets is the markets obviously have to already be accepting SNAP. So they must have an FNS number. And we have them fill out an application just so we can have it on record when the market is, contact information and whatnot. And then we also, what we're learning is it's really important that the market actually operates SNAP through the token process pretty self-sufficiently. And so that can maybe be one full year of accepting SNAP before we implement Freshbooks. Because when a farmer's market gets started and doing everything at once can be really, really complicating and can take a lot of time. And so I know we've gotten some inquiries on new markets that have wanted to start in Marion County. Not only do we have an issue with capacity of growers and produce farmers, we also know that it takes time to apply for SNAP and being patient and then getting accepted and then learning how to process SNAP and then trying to add incentives onto that all in one season can be really, really difficult. So we usually like to see maybe a successful year of doing SNAP and then we bring Freshbooks in. Some of our promo materials, these are folders that we provide that the checks can go in. Provides contact information, and then it also provides a list of what is eligible with their SNAP tokens and then also what is eligible with their Freshbooks. We create postcards every year. We put them into English and Spanish. We also have them put into the template to where they can be shared on our Instagram and Facebook pages. Basically, it just indicates the markets, when they are and their times. And then on the back, it shows how Freshbooks actually works. We also do have a Freshbooks website that we like to refer participants and customers to, as well as the markets and vendors. We did some billboards last year. We had 3 markets that we promoted through billboards, which we did see a little bit of an increase. And then, of course, with the pandemic EBT cards, we saw a huge increase in SNAP usage at the farmers markets last summer, this winter, and then we're also seeing that this summer as well. And here's just a little bit of data. For the last couple of years, we've seen 780 participants. So that's 780 unique SNAP users that have used Freshbooks. We've distributed almost $38,000 worth. We've redeemed a little bit more than $32,000, and our redemption rate right now is at 85%. And we'll continue to see that redemption rate go up because we actually start our physical year of new checks, which is a new color and a new expiration date, at our winter markets, which start in November. So we do in November until the end of the following December. And then we do take surveys from the participants as well as the vendors. So I'm not going to read these, but you guys will have access to the slides. So feel free to look through some of the comments. But this is also just noting that, a majority of participants stated that they were buying more and consuming more fruits and vegetables because of Freshbooks. And then we like to just get some qualitative, we get quotes. We're actually going to be doing our surveys here. We always do at the end of July, sort of mid-season of the summer, so that we can get some really good feedback from participants who may have been using the program, but also who may be new. And then our next steps, which I wanted to go into, obviously is always funding, state, local, federal support, foundations, grants, partnerships, fundraising, working on getting more SNAP promotion and advertisement campaigning, which I'll talk a bit on when we start working towards the nutrition incentive network. How can we create some of that uniformed messaging throughout the entire state for all the markets? Expanding, getting more nutrition education at the markets, and then introducing Freshbooks into small retail. So that is one of our big steps that we're working towards, that we hope from a year now we'll have a few medium to small size grocery stores and brick and mortars accepting Freshbooks in Indy. And then we're piloting our currency change from checks to actually electronic benefits through what is called the EPIC technology solution. And so what EPIC is this has actually been used throughout the state of Michigan through the Fair Food Network. And there's just lots of opportunities in regards to transitioning to electronic cards. We'll keep SNAP the same. So we'll stay with the token process, but instead of families getting checks for Freshbooks, they'll actually get their match loaded onto a card. And then those cards can be redeemed with the vendors. And then there's an administrative portal that we'll have access to for all sorts of reporting. And then the farmers markets will also have access to all of that because they are the ones that will be able to actually load the cards. And we plan to provide tablets for all of the farmers markets as well, and any card swipers for the vendors. So we're going to support as best as we can and make sure that there's no finances that the markets or the vendors have to contribute. So this is an example of the experience. Now they're showing a digital ad here. We are not moving towards a digital ad piece. We're actually going to have physical cards. Our community, it's not quite there to have digital ad as the sole way of redemption. So we're going to continue to use physical cards. And actually the digital ad is a lot more expensive too. So we want to try this method first with cards. The middle picture is what the vendors will have access to. So they'll be able to load cards. They can issue a new card. They can replace a card. They can check balances. They can do all of that for the participants. And then the admin will be able to see just really live data on where the cards are being used, who's redeeming them and whatnot. And this is just another picture of the dashboard that we would have available as an admin. And the nice thing is that this Epic technology not only will be able to transition that into the farmers markets, but we can actually use this within retail. And onto our smaller retail, they would just have to have a separate tablet terminal for Freshbooks transactions. But in some of our larger stores, we're really working hard to make sure that they're getting the point of sale system that is embedded with Epic so that there's no extra terminal, that the cards can actually be swiped and used right through their actual point of sale system. And then the last thing I wanted to point out from this presentation is the work of the Indiana Nutrition Incentive Network. We just started meeting in September of last year, and this is through efforts with the State Nutrition Action Committee with the Indiana Department of Health. And the goal of this is to really build out a network of SNAP matching programs throughout our state and be able to create a unified brand, have shared tools, almost be this hub of resources, have consistent evaluation. And this will include evaluating SNAP. So what kind of data can we collect from all of the markets throughout the state that are doing SNAP transaction so that we can prepare documents and information to share with our leaders and legislators and say, hey, look at what this is doing for our community, not only economically, but also for health and access and food insecurity and nutrition insecurity, so we can have sustainable funding throughout our entire state for these programs. And so we are right now with the network, we're currently in a landscape scan and also a stakeholder interview phase. We consulted with Wholesome Wave, who is actually doing capacity building for us, and they're doing all of the stakeholder interviews currently. So it'll be really great to get that information back at the end of this summer, and we'll have a better idea of what we need to do moving forward as a network. And then it's just a collage of pictures. As you can see, we did get sandwich boards created for the markets that accept Freshbooks or actually distribute Freshbooks. We were kind of informed that one issue that consumers had was they didn't know where to start. And so we wanted to make sure that we provided some market information sandwich boards for them so they had an idea of where to go. And then of course, we thank Indiana University Health. They have supported the food cost incentive costs for the last 2 years for our FreshBucks program. So we just want to thank them. And then here is my contact information if you want to follow up and have any further questions. But thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michelle. And thank you also to Lindsey and Chelsie for some really terrific information about SNAP and how it's being administered at markets in several parts of the state. There are a couple of questions here that we'll cover. If you have additional questions, please feel free to put them into the chat box, or once we go through that, you can unmute yourself and ask a question. So one that came up had to do with, have you found certain kinds of customer surveys most successful, and are these administered on multiple dates at each market? For example, in conjunction with any promotions or participation incentives, etc.
Yeah, I can go ahead and answer that. So Claire, with that, we actually, we use quite a bit of resources and materials from the Nutrition Incentive Hub. I will put the link in the chat for anybody who's interested. And so we pulled quite a few questions from their participant survey. We wanted to be as uniformed as possible at a national level, because I know they're also collecting a bunch of data. And so the questions we asked came from that. And then we also pulled a few of our own questions that we wanted to collect for our CDC grant. And then also some that we wanted just for Marion County in general. So we kind of pulled a bunch of them together into one. We have a full-time epidemiologist and evaluator on our grants. And so how he wants to do the surveys is we do it one time throughout the summer. However, we have to do all the markets within a same period of time. And so when we have quite a few markets on Saturdays. So we do 2 on one Saturday, and then we do the markets that are during the week that same week, and then follow up with the remaining Saturday ones that following Saturday. And so he has some fancy charts and stuff that show when the highest participation of nutrition incentive and SNAPs are, which is typically July and August. And that's when we then decide to do that surveying, that we can try to get as many people as possible through it. And we're happy to share the survey that we do provide. We're very transparent with the work that we do. And we're happy to share those resources.
Oh, thank you, Michelle. Lindsey and Chelsie, do you do surveys at your markets?
We've done surveys in the past. I don't know that we've done any super recently, especially with COVID going on. But those have mostly been physical handout surveys. And, I don't know that we've targeted a specific time of the year. We don't have an extra individual looking at those like Michelle has, but, we usually keep them at the market table when people come up to learn about the market, or when they're, engaging with this SNAP machinery. We just ask them to fill it out while they're there. It's been pretty straightforward. And Michelle probably sees a higher number of SNAP turnout than we do, at least here in Madison County. I don't know if that'd be the same for Lindsey and Delaware County, but I would say our SNAP participation is just a bit lower.
I would agree with that, Chelsie. I was part of a project last year that was not SNAP, but it did have to do with local produce being distributed for free at some food pantries and places like that. And we did a survey with that. It was a half sheet of paper, just 4 really straightforward yes, no questions. And we did have a QR code if people wanted to fill it out online, but I don't know that anybody did. It was the physical handout, and we enlisted some Ball State University students that were present. They walked the line and asked people the questions and filled out, checked the box. And then the extension office secretary input that the paper handout answers into our Qualtrics online link.
Thank you.
I'll add one other thing, Deb, to it. If I forgot to mention is we do the surveys in person. So it does take a team to really do it. And that capacity is definitely difficult. But we take iPads to the markets, and then we provide extra incentives to those who fill the survey out for us. We give them an extra $10 of Freshbooks for doing it. So that's kind of helped increase our numbers each year.
Oh, that's awesome. How do you fund that extra incentive?
We incorporated it into our incentive funds in general. And so when we do all of our calculating, we know which ones are going towards incentives in general, or which ones are going towards the actual surveys.
That's awesome that you have the capacity to do that. There's a question here, says I'm an intern for the Food and Growers Association in Southeastern Indiana. we have an online farmers market program and want to know if SNAP benefits can be used at the online market, similar to how they're used at in-person farmers markets. Anyone have experience with this?
I remember last year when COVID was new and markets were kind of going to an online pre-order system. One thing that was suggested was you can't pay with a SNAP card online, at least not, I don't think with a lot of business, like I think like Walmart, maybe you can do it. Like it's very limited. So the suggestion that I heard last year was on the website, can you create like a pay with SNAP at pickup option, so that like when you're in like your checkout page, you could select that pay with a SNAP card on site. Then whenever the customer comes to pick up their box of items, the card can be snapped, or the SNAP card can be swiped right there.
Oh, that's cool. Michelle,
Yeah.
looks like you have a different option.
Yeah, well, I was just going to add, no, that's exactly what you really have to do. The process of a retailer becoming an approved online SNAP acceptor is very difficult. Even for like your medium-sized grocery stores and stuff like that, they've got to have certain approved food lists, and that they have to have like the security features for putting their PIN numbers and stuff in. And so I know you have to really work at a state level first with retailers before there's any kind of transactions of online SNAP happening. And like Lindsey said, yeah, it's your large box stores. So your, Walmart and Amazon, I believe currently in Indiana, that can actually accept SNAP online.
And Christina just mentioned that what Lindsey and Michelle were both saying, that for SNAP online, the card is used at pickup point only, and was mentioned in the April webinar. So any other questions? We've got just a couple of minutes today. I want to, while you guys are thinking about potential questions, want to thank our speakers again, Lindsey, Chelsie, and Michelle. I really love to see how markets across the state are doing, how they're, running their markets, especially really trying to make the markets appealing to potential customers, and then learning how they're using SNAP. I know I was involved with the program that Michelle is working with in its very early formative stages, and it was getting your producers to accept SNAP, to want to be part of that process. That takes a real education, educating the producers as well as your potential customers. And over time, I think perhaps we're starting to see more acceptance on the producer side to accept SNAP at the market. So it requires an education process. It's a heavy lift on both sides of both the producer as well as the customer. So it's really great to see that redemption is growing around the state.
Yeah, thanks, Deb. And one thing I just wanted to end is if there is anybody that's interested in being a part of the Nutrition Incentive Network or knows of anybody, please send it my way. We're really just trying to build it each month. We're getting more and more people that we're learning. We have a list of about 7 SNAP matching programs throughout the state. So if you are aware of other SNAP matching programs throughout the state, we'd love to hear about them as well, so we can continue to get this list going.
Great. Again, thank you to our speakers, and thanks to everyone who participated today. Be on the lookout for an email from Christina with the survey, and then notification as to when the webinar and the materials will be posted for you to go back and review. So thanks again, and have a great day.